All right, you guys, welcome to this episode of the Outrun Show. I'm Travis.
Oh, I'm Jesse. I always wait for this guy.
I'm Justin.
I psyched you out. So we're switching things up. We're going to talk a little bit in this episode about our change to the format of the show. We will still have our audio format, but we're also going to have a visual format that's going to be coming in as soon as the next episode. And then there are some hot topics out there right now. AMC to the moon. We have these GameStop and several companies that there's a lot of talk about and investing your money. And is everybody going to get rich? Or are we going to stick it to the man? Or is Wall Street going to wolf its way through the situation and come out on top? Oof.
They get a lot of money.
We know what one
A lot of
that
time.
one.
A lot of experience.
All that and more on this episode of the Outrun Show.
We're not financial advisors.
Yes, disclaimer. May cause nausea and anxiety. Cha-ching!
Ready.
Golden Open. Okay, so Justin, AMC to the moon?
Oh, yeah. I think Jesse's a better intro on this, but I think the whole world right now is upset.
Wait, what did you do first? Before we get to talking about it and you get guilt.
No. I'm holding the line. I'm on Wall Street Bets subreddit right now, and the whole world is holding. So this
Dude,
is
you don't hodl like that.
It's hodl, but with the stock market, it's great.
Yep.
This was my observation, is that, so if anybody doesn't know what's going on, you have these, for lack of a better term, junk companies that have their hedge bets by Wall Street against them that they're going to fail. Because even Wall Street's smart enough to know that some of these brick and mortar, older models of doing business, like AMC, like these movie theaters, like GameStop, which is retail purchasing of immaterial things, they're gonna fail. But and I want to talk about that for a second, because they're gonna fail for a couple reasons. Like they're likely to fail because they're retail, they're brick and mortar, and conversions have moved to online buying
For those products.
For those products, that's one thing.
They can't buy
But
cakes
the
online.
real reason I can't empathize too hard with them, with the exception of maybe AMC, because that's a nice, cool experience, which I would argue isn't going anywhere. They're just gonna have to adjust their model.
I agree.
They needed to adapt to the market in some meaningful way. Right now, they're sort of like victims of some of the very negative aspects of capitalism and Wall Street. They're targeted because they're going out of business, and then people want to bet against that, which I just think that hedge betting in the stock market is so unethical just by sheer principle.
Yep.
Like, in my opinion, we shouldn't be following these larger funds and trends that just sort of like pull up and down. I agree with Jim Cramer on this. If you like Mad Money, if you listen to him talk about it, he talks about how, really you could have something in a sector, let's say that sector's like retail, like GameStop, just doing terribly. But if the overall sector of games goes up, and these funds that are tied to that, they pull everything up. So like your variable of like whether Disney is performing or GameStop is performing, with except for like one-offs, just kind of bounces around up and down in this small margin, while the total sector, meaning the category of everything like that, in simpler terms, goes up. It pulls everything up. The rising tide lifts all ships, or it sinks all ships. It should go back to a time where we're actually interested in the individual performance of companies and whether they're good to invest in or not. So if you pick out of an industry, let's say that is a tech industry, if you pick Apple over Google or something like that, and Apple does really well, you get rewarded 10x, but we don't see the entire sector float up, and these junk companies, or these companies that aren't actually performing in the game that is capitalism, come up with them. So that's my problem with just overall like sector-based trading and stuff like that. With these guys, what's cool is that you see people who are individuals participating in sort of messing up that whole game. Like, these guys had a plan. They're going to run this hedge bet. They're going to make a bunch of money. They could see it coming a mile away. It's going to be a domino effect. That's going to crash, right? So we got GameStop, AMC. Is there anything else on there?
Yeah, there's a couple
Other ones. They're going to crash. They're going to do their normal thing. We're going to make money off that. No one's paying attention. But what I think they didn't pay attention to is that a lot of people who are getting into things like crypto, we're starting to realize that as an individual, they have they can have an effect when
Yep.
there's a mass, a critical mass.
It's really just a bunch of rich people upset that the little people realized that they were just doing a pump and dump with the traditional stock market, and they were like,
oh, we see what's
No.
going on here. That just happened to me with Bitcoin.
and they were
Yep.
like, let's not.
Yep.
So it's
Right?
part of them being educated. And I would argue it's probably not, if I was just going to guess, it's probably not individual rich people. It's probably these fund managers.
No,
These people, they
no, it's
employ
definitely- yeah.
these suits, essentially, who are sitting
I
there
mean,
just
let's
like
be honest.
running
So
it.
pretty much everybody that works for these hedge funds is a 1%er, right? Like most of these people that are in these hedge funds actually doing these tradings are 1%ers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just they're just salty because somebody was flipped the table on them, and now they got screwed up.
Right.
And it's like, hey, congratulations, you're now playing the stock market like the rest of us.
Right. So
I just think there's something special about
It is.
social
It is
media.
cool.
It's
and
amazing.
because this is the TikTok and Donald Trump's stadium tickets, right? That we talked
Yes.
about earlier. There's something like, I don't know if it's like this decentralized beast that is just coming back to haunt, larger establishments. But it's hilarious that these kids on TikTok can outrage the president of the United States, and a small subreddit can
troll the entire stock
overturn
market.
and make literally shut down trading platforms like Robinhood. It's
So
just- it's
if
just so
anyone
hilarious.
was like this is where I totally agree with it. I think it's super cool. If the narrative is this, if you're an individual, I see this happening, and I have a very small amount of money, and I'm going to throw it in there just to tip the boat, right? To really cause some problems in this way. I have no problem with that. Although my experience tends to be that when you look deeper at it, there are people who are compulsive gamblers who actually believe, like people are masking what your approach is, which I believe you're very sober, like economically, except for your expensive tastes. So other than like,
He's
but-
bougie.
yeah, he's like, yeah, you'll turn penny to a dollar real quick, but you don't go the other way. When it's big money, you don't play as much. You're a bit more sensible on big money, in my opinion. And I worry that what people are doing is they're saying what you're saying, but when they go home at night and they sleep, they're like, oh, I'm gonna 10x, I'm gonna 1000x my money, and wah 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 wah. So there's a perspective thing there. It's a problem. Is like, you're telling me the lie that you're doing this because you think you're some sort of like Wall Street Robin Hood, but in actuality, you're just hoping you make bank on it.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to give people the sort of, you see this too, where someone is like, it's fun to talk about making that money, but most people are only throwing a couple $100 into this stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to make more on their Chick-fil-A paycheck than they are on this potential 5x, 10x of their $200, $100 or something like that. So they're going to make a couple $100,000, or excuse me, they're going to make a couple $1,000 at best case scenario. And they're going to talk about it the rest of their life like they got to retire off of it, but it's less than what they make in a month working at their, minimum wage job at full time and some overtime.
I don't
You know what I
think
mean?
people make that much money at Chick-fil-A at minimum wage, bro.
No, I think you're probably getting close to $1,000 a month if you're working at Chick-fil-A. You don't think so?
Yeah, 12 grand a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Full-time minimum wage gets
I
you
mean,
pretty
minimum
close to
wage
20.
is like $10 at the federal right now. It's super low.
Yeah.
It's like 12 in Colorado, which is still kind of low.
Let's call it 2 months. You're going to act like that was the smartest thing you ever did.
I mean, if you made money, it was. If you 10x your money, $200 at $2,000, that was a smart move.
I think overall the smarter move is like cash flow, but
Really, I don't see that. There's definitely some people who are like secretly doing that, but for the most part, I think when this happens, it really again it reminds me of these other like crowd-sourced events, kind of like, do you remember when Twitch played Pokemon?
Uh-huh.
Like there's no money involved in that, but it was general
great.
chaos. But people just loved being there for the first time that Twitch, named their first Pokemon.
It's like,
And then beat the Elite Four, and with all randomized, controls. So
Uh-huh.
there's something special about being there in those moments, and that's what I think people are after, rather than trying to 10x. 100x,
I think that
whatever.
your average like 50, 60, or your Gen X, your Boomer, is probably looking at it like they look at the stock market every day, and they look for those little trends. They look for key stocks that are going to go up, and I think they're gonna play with it. And they don't, in the stock market, you usually don't get that same like nutsness. Like I remember with crypto, you get calloused very quickly to someone saying that they're like, just the idea for someone in the stock market that something could even 10x just feels nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we lived through a time 3 or 4 years ago where, you know, Ethereum, which is arguably like the second most popular crypto, right? Went from, I watched it go from 7 and then to 18, and I was like, that's 100%, I'm not getting in. And the next thing you know, it's 60. Next thing you know, it's 1,500. Next thing you know, it's 2,400. I mean, these are thousands of percent multiple. And once you experience something like that, you just sort of are a little more like sobered as like, okay, this happens every once in a while. It's possible. So I feel like I'm worried that there are people out there who are like, I refinanced my house because of whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm gonna throw
that's not them, though, right? Like that happens anytime there's a financial.
That's just the alarm. I'm just saying that's the alarm I'm throwing. It's gonna happen. It's of the nature of it.
It's probably already happened, and I don't think that's. I think you saying that while that's reasonable is a little bit. That's a little bit Debbie Brown Downer, bro. Okay.
Oh, I understand.
So, for example, like I threw $200 at this and I don't care if I lose $200 because it's $200, right? I spent $200 on dumber stuff.
Which one did you get?
I think I bought AMC.
Yeah, AMC was one.
You could frame that because recently you definitely made $200 off crypto.
Oh, absolutely.
So you took some of your crypto money.
That was cash. That was like cash money because I take money when I can. But no, like I threw $200 at it because I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
I morally
kick them
scored
all
it. It's
down.
the same thing as if I had like I had donated $200 to like a nonprofit, or I bought like, you know, like a hat for a political like person.
Yeah,
it's not. I
crowdfunding.
didn't put that money in there because I was like, oh, this guy needs to win for my money to matter. I straight up just put it in because I was like, you know what? I also want to just like put my foot in the ring and just be like,
right,
rock the boat. You know what I mean? Yeah, I want to rock the boat a little bit, and I'm okay with that.
And I think this is okay. Better than raiding the Capitol.
I think the majority, way better. Less guns involved.
Yeah,
right?
let's compare those two.
But I think like most people that have done this are like that. That are like, you know what?
So,
I think some people are certainly like, oh my gosh, this is a great financial move, and I think those people are a little bit silly. If you make money, awesome, you made money, whether it's $1, $100, or $1,000. But I think most people are more like me, that they're just like, you know what? I think this is a cool thing, and I want to be a little bit a part of history.
Mm-hmm.
And if it only costs me $100 to be a part of history, and be like, yeah, I helped do that, then that's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
You just have to remind people that. Oh, go ahead.
Especially when like hedge funds are out there doing the exact same thing. You're telling me GameStop stock wasn't going to drop like a rock when the hedge fund was like, we're going to short sell GameStop. Like, that literally is market manipulation when one of the largest hedge funds is like, we're going to short sell GameStop.
And everybody else is like, I'm out.
I'm out. That's literally market manipulation,
it's bullying,
right?
It's bullying.
Yeah. And so the, what's it, Wall Street Bets, Wall Street's Bets, the subreddit, just was like, nah, let's bet against your bet.
Mm-hmm.
And see who wins.
It's a triple hedge.
It's great. It's great. I love it. And they lost billions of dollars. And like, I hope nobody in there, and I genuinely can say this, I hope nobody that was in those hedge funds is like, oh my gosh, I can't pay for my kids' food, and like we're out and we're bankrupt now. I hope that doesn't happen. But I do hope they're like, man, that means I have to sell my 4th Lamborghini.
It would be, I think that what would be cool is if those hedge funds, if they're trying to mitigate their losses, that's one way, but doing sudden actions that are very influential like that, if they start to realize that there is sort of like a policing of that, and if some group in aggregate were to start to notice that was true market manipulation, which is when you just double down on a hedge, like I can understand balancing hedge funds like to mitigate losses across the board, but if you're going to go in and try and sink essentially AMC, and that's observable, then the alarm should go off, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense. I think that my advice, just as a practical person, would be, if that's the approach you're taking, what Jesse's doing, and I don't know how much money you put in.
No, I just left $60.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, yeah.
What, you think I'm dropping like 500 in there?
Dude, I guarantee you people are throwing thousands in there. I guarantee you right now, there are people who are like, oh, I refinanced my house, I got a couple grand because the market's down, I'm going to take that, we're going to the moon.
Dude, how did they refinance their house this fast?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, this is, yeah, that is painful, right? I keep complaining. Like, I don't know. I think that I should just take the money and run, but I'm just like, no, I want that. And then they're like, oh, well, we'll
They're like,
teach
wait,
you.
he said no to us.
Oh, I said it's
Nobody
not
says
helping.
no to
It's
a
not helping the situation right now. But yeah, so I think that there are people who are just going through that pattern of refinancing now. Interest rates we're low. We know that that's happening, and I think that people they're sitting on cash. I think a bunch of people are sitting on cash right now. I think it's the average American who was sitting at a 4% interest rate.
People lost money in the like 2018 like crypto spike. People definitely lost one in this last little spike, and that's just what happens. And like,
I'm saying make sure the lesson is cheap.
Yes, a good financial sense is like you play with money that you're okay with losing. That's just the rule.
I think that people work this way. This is the way that I've observed. I think that they go about their day to day taking a check, and sometimes things get so spicy they would normally ignore them. It gets on their radar, and then they get amped up. This is like this almost like Midwestern, or like you watch Wolf of Wall Street. It's these people who are living otherwise normal, controlled lives that they feel like they have control over, and they're not playing in these types of games. Maybe they have a 401k, which they have no idea what it's baked of, and they just see that number gradually go up over time, and then eventually they'll get older, and some nursing home will just take it from them. But that's kind of what I think the track most people are on. Essentially the long play reverse mortgage track, which is like, I'm going to pay down my house only to hit a certain age, where we're in 6 months, some other industry that's taking care of me takes my money. Like, I just think that's the route most everyday Americans are on. And when they see something like this, it's like that I could win a lottery ticket. I think there is a group. They could.
Still the upside.
There is still the upside.
There is still.
I just
Never mind. Take it out, folks. Just pull all the cash out, all in to the moon on AMC.
I just don't think the people who would react that fast and that emotionally really have any sort of money to make it worth it.
I guess that's my point.
I just think they have like $20 and they're like, I want to do it. I want to turn my 20 into 1,000. That's what what they're looking for.
And if they do, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But if so, because I've definitely seen people who are like, I'm sitting on 30 shares of GameStop right now and it's at 350 or whatever. And they're like, my hand's shaking. And everyone in the comment list is like, don't sell, don't sell, don't sell, don't sell.
I would be like, sell.
But the logical thing is that person should sell, right? Like at the end of the day, you either invest for you or you invest on like a moral principle, right? So like people who buy like green stocks or like Tesla, right? And because they believe in it. It's the same thing with crypto. Like
I bought Disney for that.
Either you're buying crypto because you're like, I believe in the blockchain technology and the app development that's going to happen on this platform, or you buy crypto like I am, and I'm like, this is just another stock for me.
Yes.
And as soon as it makes money, I'm going to sell it and I'm going to roll my money into something else cooler or whatever, right? I don't care about the tech. I do think blockchain is cool. But those are the two sides of it, right? And that person should absolutely leave their position and sell and take the cash and buy their kid or their wife or themselves something nice, or or their husband or whomever, buy someone something nice and enjoy the money and smile and be like, that was a cool thing that I was a part of.
You got to know your number. So if you 100 times over, I'm saying you got to know your number. Like what's your selling number? You just have to know what that number is when you go into it in that situation. Otherwise, you'll be blindsided by the passion of it, right? So if you're someone who has a net worth of near zero, and for some reason you think a stock is going to take whatever money you put into it beyond a couple grand, like let's say you put in whatever, you had a bonus check, you put in a few $100s or a couple $100, now that's worth $2,000 to $5,000, and you are worth zero as far as net worth goes or something like that. Like I don't believe people are associated with this, but you know what I'm saying? You should sell, because that money, even though it could be worth more, it could turn to 10 or 100, super unlikely, but let's say it could, and you see that happening, you should be able to sleep at night knowing that you got $5,000. That's life changing to you. That will affect the course of your life or that entire year for you. If the number hits that, if $5,000 doesn't change the trajectory of your livelihood over the short term, even, then fine, sit in there, play with it some more. That's not your number.
Yeah, it's a bit like this. Like if you're walking, this is a bit of an extreme example, but if you're like walking through a parking lot and you dropped $100 bill and you didn't know, or let's say you did know and you're running, you're a speed walker or something, I don't know, and you drop it and you're like, oh no,
They're running out of horchata.
And then, you got to get in the store. They're closing or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you're running. You're like, oh, dang, dropped $100. Dang. But then later in the parking lot, you come across $120. You would probably be like, sweet. And you would take the $20 and you would smile and you would spend that on your horchata. And then you take $100 and you buy yourself something nice, right? Like, that's how you have to look at it.
I missed the exchange. You find you drop
100 and then you find 120 later on in the parking lot.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
You would take that money, but if you're walking across the parking lot and you're the type that you're like, oh, my GameStop stock is now worth 10x what I put into it, and you're like, I'm gonna hold on to it. You literally walked across $1,000 in that parking lot, and you were like, no, I'm gonna find $10,000 further down the parking lot. That's what you just did, rather than just being like, I'm gonna take it right here. That's fine, right? And even if the stock does suddenly become $100,000 a share, and you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have gotten out at $1,000. It's okay because you didn't lose money. And that's literally the entire goal of finances, is to make money, not lose it.
Yeah.
Right? And so like seller's guilt is an okay thing to be like, oh man, I only made $1,000 instead of 100,000. You still made $1,000.
Right. And the point
that's
is,
cool.
And the honest truth is that you were probably in a position financially where at some point it's unreasonable to expect to be like have a $10 net worth and then just one day just flip that to $100,000, right? Yeah. Like at some point you just have to be honest with yourself. Are you really paying attention and are you learning finances? Like that, it's just like when you start seeing all these patterns occur, even if you're just like, I worked in Silicon Valley for a couple of years and I saw like VC venture capital money, funny money.
A lot of money.
Funny money. And when you see money moving around like that, like I think everyone who has a scarcity mindset or maybe has just been working an hourly job or something like that is sort of imagining that stuff is really tight at that scale. And it's not. Like it's literally if you just ran around the country's economy with a bucket and just was in the right place at the right time holding it out, you'd catch some money. You'd have to figure out where that is. But that's what it's like. There's so much money circulating in the global economy. It is out of control ridiculous. And people are like, obsessing over these like these certain opportunities like a crypto or like a lottery ticket or like a singular opportunity, right? Like that. And then they're just not getting the full breadth of experience and picture. And if I'm running a crypto or if I'm running a stock and I'm on the right end of that, I would love a bunch of morally principled, quote unquote, people to come in and get excited about sticking it to the man when I make a ton of money on that. That would be wonderful. Like you have to observe that side of it too. Like the people who screwed up AMC and wouldn't change, and the people who screwed up GameStop. I'm not saying they're to blame here, but they're kind of like, if I was sitting there, I'd be like, I thought we were going bankrupt. Sell. Let's get out of this because this company is going to go into the tanks.
I can 100% guarantee nobody's buying GameStop because they think GameStop's like a solid business.
And I guarantee anyone who knows anything about GameStop, who works at GameStop, is selling all their stuff right now.
Oh, yeah.
If they're like, I can't even believe this is ridiculous. I can't even believe we had this opportunity. We've been saved.
Again, yeah. That's what it's right. And that's what I'm saying, though, is like little people like me. I hope that there's a GameStop employee who's like, I've spent 25 years of my life working for this company, and he's got so much stock in GameStop, and he's like, I don't know what to do with it now. Like, that was going to be part of my retirement, and my contribution has allowed him to sell at 10x and be like, oh my gosh, he gets to go home and tell his spouse, or she gets to go home and tell her spouse, and be like, we get to sell and we actually get to actually have like a feasible retirement. And I get to feel good about that because I contributed to the only Kickstarter that actually matters, that I'll actually contribute money to. And that is, hopefully these little people in that company can bail themselves out because the company obviously wasn't going to do it for them. I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Bro.
And I'll never support a Kickstarter.
I think that I love the energy of that. And I think that's great. One of the best things you've said. I would also like to say that there is a strong likelihood that any neckbeard who's been working for GameStop for the last 20 years isn't going home to anything except for their mom.
You can't follow up one of the best things I said. One of the worst things you've ever said.
Yep. This is what I wanted to do that. We need that good deposit if we're going to make a withdrawal.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well maybe his mom tells him, you should sell, honey. And he sells and they go on a nice vacation together, all right?
All right. That being said, I worked for an AMC. It was one of my first jobs. Okay, Cullen is just vomiting over here in the corner. It's okay, bro. You got lean neck. It's all good. Whew. Okay, so that's why we're under the comedy category. So that's our out. All right, so I worked. It was actually one of my favorite jobs, and actually the first time I ever stemmed an obstacle. I was.
Oh, the hallways.
Yep, the hallways going up. That's how I used to get down.
Every parkour
Had to
kid
clean
does
some like
that.
juice off the ceiling or something, or what?
What? No, that's just
like the exit hallway.
the exit hallway.
Yeah.
You know, where you do the stemming up, and forever that AMC has like the the fabric is stretched where like my feet would go up and down on the side.
That felt.
So I would have
We've
been.
all done that one.
This would have been I'm not gonna date myself on that one, but yeah, if that's doing parkour, then yeah,
We talked about this in previous.
yeah,
It's intention.
I'm just saying.
If
Oh,
you were
that-
intending to do parkour, then it wasn't.
If I was intending, it wasn't.
No, if you weren't intending to do parkour, then it was not parkour.
Could you have intended to do it when you didn't have a word for it?
What were you doing? Are you doing a show off?
No, I literally was like, I was literally like, I was excited. I was like, this is gonna be really cool. I'm gonna stem up the freaking center of this thing and then climb over to the top
Yeah,
seats.
that's not parkour.
Yeah.
That's not parkour.
If you did a flip or something afterwards, maybe.
Oh, if I would have front out.
If you
Did I
climbed
front
the
out?
top and then hooked a big old layout back
Okay,
truck,
you're
yeah,
right.
totally.
Good point. So I'll always remember to punch front out of those to make it parkour. I like it.
But anyway, speaking of change and adapting and staying on the cutting edge of the market,
Unlike AMC and
unlike AMC and GameStop,
GameStop?
maybe if they're smart, maybe GameStop will pivot and like the CEO is just like, this is our time, guys. This is our time to make GameStop something worthwhile for gamers, and they do it. Maybe, who knows? Maybe AMC is like, going to a movie should be a luxury experience. That's the only reason Justin goes to a movie theater, so he can recline in a massive chair with a giant bottle of.
I think
pork
they're
chop.
at it. I think it's double
Topo
the chair distance and double my price. I don't care.
Right? Well, that's what I mean. Like, give me a couch.
I don't want to share my seat with the GameStop employee.
Oh.
This is true.
He'd like
The
taking
breathing.
up, dude. Like I've been to
Yeah.
some dudes.
Okay. Yeah. No,
They breathe.
Shared,
and, like, they put
shared
their elbows.
armrests. Shared
Shared
armrests has got to
armrests?
stop in
Oh
movie
my
theaters. It's got to
gosh.
stop in airplanes. It's got to stop in movie
Who
theaters.
does
I don't
that?
want to share an armrest with somebody, okay? Because it's awkward. We like bump elbows, and I'm like, "Do you want it? Do I want it?" And they're like, "No, you have it." And I was like, "No, you have it. I'm considerably more mobile than you are."
I also don't want to have someone endure me take my shoes off and like basically sit in a squatting position. Like
no, they shouldn't do that. That should be.
no, I don't like
slightly
if I'm on like in my seat, like my knee is bumping their elbow. I could see where they'd be uncomfortable with that. And they're like, yeah, because I'm sitting like, you know, in a little precision squat. And I like to watch a movie like this. And especially when there's action. Oh.
You get dude, that was very primal of you, like a primate.
Oh. Well, who maybe I was watching Planet of the Apes. You don't know.
Anyways.
It could have been a rom-com too.
Then crying. What's your crying position in that squat?
What's my crying position?
Yeah, like because all rom-coms have like a 3/4 sad spot.
Oh, you're right.
Before they get really happy.
I think if I was gonna cry, it would basically be like legs folded. Like I'd sit cross-legged. I think I'd cry. I'm a cross-legged crier, but I'm asymmetrically leaning, just like guilt, like this. Right. That's pretty good.
I feel this.
How do you guys cry? In the shower alone?
So you lean back.
You lean back and cry like
Triple chins or something.
that's an exaggerated pout. So that's that. You almost had a little bit of a neck beard there. I love
That
it.
is impressive. Amount of chins that you can make there.
So I think one key point to make right now is that do you really need to be watching this to get the full effect? And we're going to try and add a visual component to the Outrun Show. We're switching it up.
We're switching up.
Real world, Outrun. It's going to be like that.
What
Is
was
that
it?
to the
reality-
Wayne's World song?
I think it's
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Party time, right?
Something like that.
Colin had to check us
Colin
on
got
that.
that Wayne's World song.
Yeah, we do need like Colin to be queuing up the mixer in the back with the traditional radio show. Those guys are gonna be talented. Anyway, the visual component. So we're gonna start doing some training, talking about some techniques, and but we're gonna talk about the value that I think we're gonna bring to a visual component.
Yeah.
So I mean, like we can do some stuff.
We can do some stuff.
Yeah, we can do some stuff. I think.
Yeah, we've
can
jumped
see
some
so.
stuff.
Yeah, got some.
No, but so for those of you tuning in, we're gonna flip flop. So essentially, we'll continue to do our banter and our talk about all things parkour and the world of parkour culture, as we normally do, sitting around in our little spot here. But then on the off weeks, we'll actually be on the floor in the facility talking about a specific parkour technique or a specific section, or we'll actually have like some, us will be standing around, we'll be demoing, we'll be talking about, we won't be necessarily teaching, but we'll be talking about like our opinions on certain moves, what we like about them, whether we like them or not. There are certainly things that I haven't done in parkour in years because I think it's dumb, but that these two might think are really cool, and we're going to talk about that and why we have those opinions. And so hopefully it's you're going to get a lot from it, from people who have literally watched parkour become the sport that it is, and actually helped contribute to the sport of parkour and how it's grown
and the future.
And that like 3/4 of like parkour techniques weren't around when Justin and I started doing parkour. It was like you got like Kong and speed vault, and then maybe a front flip.
Yeah,
that was like
Kong Gainer was the.
That was a big thing.
Yeah,
Huge.
there's a bunch of moves that weren't around when we started. The Shade Prees weren't really a thing.
They weren't.
Oh, dude! On my speaking of this, I'm glad that this will give me the opportunity to.
My shades weren't really.
To talk about that, because I had a Facebook does that. X number of years ago, I had like an 8 or a 9 year ago or whatever it was, and it was us in that first little Lachey Pre that we had in the Loveland location.
Oh yeah.
And I was looking at my like landing, and I was like, CrossFit ruined me.
You were in in Snatch Catch, right? No.
Yeah, literally. I think I caught
like
Lachey Snatch in this video, and then Val gets the knees on the exit, and I was like, oh my goodness! Like if someone did that here, I would be like, stop! I'd be like, get a defibrillator.
I think I logged into my Dropbox the other day, and I have like a few clips of.
Oh, did you go back and look for
have,
old video?
No, I was just logging in because we had some family pictures, and I remember I had put them somewhere, but they weren't in my like Google Photos or Drive. So I was like, where would I put them? And I was like, oh, maybe I put them in Dropbox, and they were in there. But also some clips from our first like Loveland location. And there's a clip of you doing a line in there, and I watched it, and I was like, "This sucks."
I've got to see that.
And I've got
so
a couple.
terrible.
I think I've got a clip of Justin, and I've got a couple of clips of Ola, and I watched all of them, and I was like, "Oh man, these are awesome!" Like I joked that we sucked in comparison to what the athletes we are now.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's super cool because like, oh my gosh, like we worked really hard on like these lines. Or
it was
they were
7
cool
years
back
ago,
then,
minimum.
like,
Those
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll have to drag them out and like share them.
Yeah, I want to look at them. You guys, if you should try. This is why I'm always an advocate of capturing your old footage, because it's just for yourself. It's so entertaining. I think Jesse took that to an extreme, and you created like a separate Instagram account that you just don't even.
Oh yeah.
You just have stuff on there in the cloud for proof.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that's a secret one. It's an Easter egg one. If you can find it.
It's a private account, so you just have to know my name.
Oh.
If you hit follow, I might accept. But it's not gonna be anything entertaining. It's literally just clips that I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna save them.
Yeah.
But mostly I use like Google Photos for that, stuff like that.
Yeah, the quality of
Instagram's nice because
it won't age well.
No, it won't. But you can already see like when I scroll back in my own current profile to just a couple years back of like Instagram posts, so you can see.
Yeah, I think my biggest regret is not recording more of the martial arts experience. Because I was the same thing. Like, this is why the parkour go around. I was like, nope, I'm recording even though I don't like what I saw. Because at that time I was like, nope, I'm not recording that. I'm not keeping that because it's not where I see myself. It's not my expectations for myself.
Yeah, or you're like, that's not good enough to post. And again, that might be right. Your brand and your social media might not be good enough to post that content. That doesn't mean that content's not valuable. You should still save it. And that's why I made that second account, that I was just like, all that content that I'm like, yeah, I like this. I worked on it. I took the time to film it and do it. But it's not like something post-worthy for me because on that account.
What was the most cringe-worthy thing you found on there?
On where?
On that, not outside of parkour stuff, right? On your Dropbox from the past at that old location.
Oh, nothing in particular. There were definitely some like really shitty flips, some really bad techniques, some even worse clothing aesthetics.
Apparel choices.
Yeah, we were bad. I mean, we were also.
Well, this is the really awkward era. Whenever you go, when you travel through time, somewhere between what would it be, like 7 and maybe 14 years trailing behind always looks the worst.
Yep.
And I feel like that's most represented by people in modern times not changing.
The problem is it's not just the clothing aesthetic that was there, it's also the movement aesthetic also looks bad. So it's like it's a jab and a hook, man.
Yeah.
It's all in one. So I'll share them with you. But yeah, so now we're gonna do some filming. We're gonna do some clips. We may even do some like lines and stuff like that.
Yeah, so if somebody's listening, why should they watch? Let's talk a little bit about
because
why it's worth watching.
Next week's episode is going to be really hard to listen to. It's going to be hard to listen to the demos.
Yeah. I love that it's going to be an audio format. So like if you're driving and you're used to listening to us on a commute or you cruise, you go to the gym and you're like lifting or training and you're listening to us, we really respect and appreciate that. And we try and make that as entertaining as possible without ruffling too many feathers and without getting down too many little like sidetracks. But there's a visual component to what we do. It's just in the nature of parkour and its history, and we have something of value to show there, right?
Yeah, I would say if you already have a really good understanding of like parkour techniques and you know all the names and you can picture them and you've done them yourself, then you could listen to these what do we call them, walkabouts?
Watch these walkabouts. Oh, listen, because then you get the
because you already have a
context,
good visual understanding of what the technique that we're talking about is or what the demos are, and but if you're kind of like an outlier that's interested in parkour but you haven't really done it and you're just kind of interested in what it might contribute to your sport or your industry, then watching the walkabouts is definitely, I don't like that name.
Which one was their name? Action episodes, right?
It's definitely going to be something that's going to benefit you because you'll be able to see it, which will help your understanding a little bit. But.
We're also cutting up, and we haven't talked about this. You guys don't know, but I'm asking Colin to go back and we have a decent library of dialogue. I mean, we've got, what are we on, episode 39. So our 40th episode will be the Outrun Show live or visual, right? Season 2, right? So we might be coming up on season 2. Is about Rona time that we started the podcast. So maybe was it June or was it? No, it was sooner than that.
Late April.
Yeah.
So we could look.
Post it. But we're gonna take some of what we think is the most valuable snippets, like last week's episode talking about coaching tips for working with kids, working with students, and communicating with students. Was a very valuable chunk of the episode. And so we're going to clip some of those up and put them in like the best of the Outrun Show category. And then that'll allow people to quickly reference them. Also, a lot of people ask us questions about techniques, or we don't want them to feel like they're starting from scratch. I think that our vision is approachable parkour for many folks. Yep. So it's very good to, if someone asks us about a technique or they don't understand a technique, to send them episodes or sessions that help them better understand that technique.
Yeah.
If we are talking about Lachey, if we are talking about plyos, I mean, if you're like, okay, well, if you don't really understand this and you're trying to learn more about it, look at this example. Yep. But individually, what are you excited about, Justin? Like what?
Justin's
I'm
excited
excited
to be moving.
To not be sitting on this tiny little pedestal.
Dude, don't worry. It's in the budget in the new build to get a nice chair. You won't sit on a sushi bowl anymore.
Yeah, I'm excited to be
Yeah.
It's
plural?
Yeah, we're gonna have to get like those like ball bearing like silent wheels though, so you don't hit a.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fixed like maybe like we'll get those AMC chairs when they go out of business.
What if we?
Oh.
That's me.
The neckbeard one. We'll never repair.
That was
never coming back.
If you're a neckbeard watching, I'm sorry. Wait, me calling you out by that is mean. Whatever.
You choose to identify that way. It's not.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
not put on you.
You choose. You choose by not shaving your neck. Right. So
I don't even know where that comes from. I'm gonna pretend.
literally not shaving the neck. From something like
if I
this.
let them go, they're just like.
You gotta trim this up a little bit, and I understand sometimes it's easy to not do because it makes the neck nice and warm, but
it's just symbolic of being unmaintened, I think.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the way I think about it.
Mostly, yeah.
Like you're sitting in front of a game for a long time. A lot of people right now there probably is an abundance of neckbeards out there right now because we have remote work.
Yeah.
Like there's a crypto. If there was a crypto that followed the volume of
Neckbeard
neckbeard
coin?
neckbeard coin, totally have made bank on that. To the moon, neckbeard coin.
Beard coin.
Beard coin.
Dude, there's some weird coins out there.
I'll guarantee there's a beard coin. There's Dogecoin. There's a beard coin.
That's true.
So this format I'm excited about because really, if you've taken any of our programs before, we're pretty animated people physically, and a lot of communication is nonverbal.
Mm.
That was even audible and visual, right?
Oh, that was all of the above.
All the above, and so we can really bring some value to the storytelling of the techniques and the animation, and maybe there'll even be a little dancing in there.
Ooh, I like that.
You can get a
There's
little dancing.
definitely gonna be dancing.
There's definitely
yeah, for sure.
A background dancing, foreground dancing, the whole nine.
I love to demonstrate like the mechanics of jumps, landings, and different movements in exaggerated and dancey fashion. So
It's easy.
my analogies will just spiral very quickly. So it's a bare minimum a good sense of comedic relief if you're taking your training too seriously, too narrowly.
If you're a serious guy.
If you're a super serious guy,
Serious girl.
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're excited about some changes going on. Again, if you are listening to us, thank you so much for tuning in and taking us along your commute or your workout or whatever it may be that you're doing while you're listening. And you can watch us on YouTube if you want to see all the like hand gestures, smiles, and funny laughs, and Justin's demonstration of a neckbeard.
Solid demo.
And yeah, definitely check us out as we roll out next week's episode as we're on the floor actually doing some stuff. It'll have a big visual component. You can, of course, still listen to us, but the visual component will be missing unless you got a really good imagination. That's cool. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will catch you next time.